They'll go over the D and I. All right, it's 5:15, so we'll go ahead and get started. This is the March 4, 2025 meeting of the City of Charleston Board of Zoning Appeals. Zoning present here today are John Bennett, Chappie McKay, Hal Morrison, Bill Goodwin, and me, your chair, Jeff Tibbles. Present from the planning staff are Robert Summerfield and Craig Bennett. These proceedings are being recorded, and we ask that those who speak please identify yourself for the record. We will conduct this meeting in usual fashion. We will first receive information from city staff about the application and the recommendation. If the recommendation is favorable and no one objects to the application, the matter is uncontested. The Board of Zoning Appeals usually, but not always, approves uncontested applications. For all applications, the board reserves the right to ask questions of the staff, applicant, or others in attendance prior to rendering a decision. If, however, the city recommends against the application, or if there is opposition to the application, we treat the application as contested and hear from the applicant and anyone else who is in favor of the application. Next, we hear from anyone opposed, followed by a short rebuttal from the applicant. We then close the public hearing portion of the meeting for that particular application and open discussion to the Board of Zoning Appeals members only. We will then make a decision to approve with conditions, or deny the application. The Board of Zoning Appeals zoning has the authority to do three things. Number one, hear appeals to decisions of the zoning administrator. Number two, grant special exceptions, a fact-finding function of the board. And number three, grant variances to the zoning ordinance if the application meets the hardship test outlined in section 54-924 of the ordinance. The board may deliberate and make a final decision on a matter by a majority vote of members present at the hearing and qualified to vote, provided that not less than a quorum is both present and qualified to vote. However, an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the board members present and voting shall be required before a use variance may be granted. For a variance to be granted, the Board of Zoning Appeals must make the following findings. A, that there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. B, these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. C, because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. And D, the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be changed or harmed by the granting of the variance. I'm required by the city's zoning ordinance to ask you to tell the truth. And so if you do intend to speak, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? You'll signify by saying, I do. Thank you. We do have a couple of deferrals, but not on substantive items this evening. We do have, unfortunately, to defer items A1 and A2 because we don't have a quorum of members present sufficient to approve the minutes of the February 4 and February 18 meetings. So we're going to have a bonanza of minute approval items next meeting on the 18th of March. Don't miss it. All right, now we're going to move on to A3, 115.5 Wentworth Street, Charleston Village, Council District 8, PMS number 457-04-03-059, zoned LB, requesting a special exception under section 54-511 to allow a 847 square foot cafe, 605 indoor and 242 outdoor, providing 4 parking spaces, 9 are required. The owner is Grace Church of Charleston. The applicant is Julia Martin. Mr. Summerfield.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so this is an item, as you can see here, kind of mid-block at the corner of Wentworth and Kirkland Lane. There's another major street there that I'm blanking on, but this is in LB zoning. It is residential, DR1F and DR2F. in the immediate vicinity of it. Here you can see the aerial. These are all, generally speaking, larger buildings. Actually, this building is pretty small by comparison. You can see it here and in the mid block. Information on them. So this is a historic building that has been in disuse, owned by the church, as mentioned, for quite a while. The proposed restaurant will reactivate this building and put it back into productive use, which we are strongly in favor of. You can see here on their proposed site layout, they will be adding some outdoor dining space as well as the indoor space. This is a restaurant operator that is that has other local locations. It's believed that the proposed cafe, particularly given its size, is neighborhood serving, and so with that, staff is recommending approval of the special exception to allow the cafe with only 4 parking spaces that are going to be to the rear of the building. There is on-street parking in the area available. And again, given how the operators operated in other areas of town, we also believe this is, again, going to be very neighborhood serving. So likely not as car dependent as maybe like a destination restaurant would otherwise be. We received a number of letters of support for this application, including one from the Charleston Village Association. You can see, again, numbers of letters of support and a number of letters of support. I think we have like 20 pages worth of them that are in your public comment packet. I believe, though, we did get, I'm gonna look to Craig. I think we did get one letter of opposition in the last day or so, but predominantly it's been letters of support, including from the neighborhood association in the area. And again, staff is recommending support. We think this is a great adaptive reuse of this building.
All right, thank you, Mr. Summerfield. Do we have anybody here this evening who wishes to speak in opposition to the application for the Whitworth Street project? Anybody in opposition? All right, seeing no one in opposition, owner applicant is present. Ms. Martin, anything you'd like to say to the board, or?
Appreciate the explanation.
Okay. All right. Any questions of the city? Any questions of the applicant? Any discussion?
Move approval.
All right, Mr. Morrison moves to approve. Is there a second? Second. Mr. McKay seconds it. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. The motion passes unanimously, and the special exception for 115.5 Wentworth Street is approved. Thank you. All right, the next item on our agenda is B4, 40 Piedmont Avenue, Wagner Terrace, Council District 6, EMS number 463-11-01-060, zone SR2, requesting a special exception under section 54-110F to vertically extend a non-conforming structure 3.1 foot south side setback, 9 feet are required. The owner applicant is David Yurko. Mr. Summerfield.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so this is a interior lot on this SR2 block in the Wagner Terrace community neighborhood off of Peachtree and Piedmont. It is pretty standard lot for this area. However, it does have existing non-conforming building setbacks. As you can see from the pictures, the demolition is within the existing footprint of the house. It is their proposal to go just a little bit vertical with that. As you can kind of see here with the new roof lines that they're proposing. As a result, this does exacerbate an existing nonconformity, but in staff's opinion, this is not a bad request or a detrimental request. And so again, it's a special exception, not a variance, because it's extending the existing nonconformity. Staff is recommending approval of this request. They do have letters of support, including a letter of support from the Wagner Terrace Neighborhood Association.
All right, thank you, Mr. Summerfield. Is anybody here in opposition to the application for 40 Piedmont Avenue? Anybody here wishes to speak against 40 Piedmont? Okay. All right, seeing no one, do we have the owner applicant here, Mr. Yurko? Okay, anything you'd like to say to the board?
I just wanted to add that I did receive support from BARS last week. And then also just to clarify that the ridge beam and the soffits will both be maintained. So it's just that portion of the roof that will be getting cut out.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any questions for the city? Any questions for the owner applicant?
I'll make a motion for
All
approval.
right, Mr. McKay moves to approve. Mr. Bennett seconds the motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. The motion passes unanimously and the special exception for 40 Piedmont Avenue is granted. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on our agenda, A5, 1011 Mamie Street, Maryville, Ashleyville, Council District 9, TMS number 418-07-00-136, zoned SR2, requesting a special exception under section 54-501 to build a single-family residence on a lot of insufficient size. 5,012 square feet are existing, 6,000 square feet are required. The owner is Burke Street Properties LLC. The applicant is Peter Cooten. Mr. Summerfield.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so you can see in the aerial here, this is deep in a block of SR2 zoning in the Maryville, Ashleyville community. As we've discussed for, I feel like every meeting that I've been here for since Lee's retirement, in the Maryville, Ashleyville, we have a number of lots that were platted that do not meet the zoning. One of the reasons we have the special exception rule is situations like this because we knew I wasn't here, but we, the city planners in general, know that when you have an existing development pattern in an existing community, a zoning district is not going to be, it's a one size fits all, but it's not going to be a perfect fit. And so the special exception, which does not have the same stringent requirements for examination that you would have for a variance, is put in place so that relief can be found when a situation comes up like this, where you have lots that have existed for quite some time before the zoning district that was applied to them existed, where it's not possible for them to actually meet those zoning requirements, and that was existing in day one. So with that, given that the proposal, again, is just a special exception for a lot of insufficient size in an area where this is not increasing density, it's a single family lot. It's going to be, they show on their plans that they are able to park on site with a one-car garage as well as adequate driveway for a second vehicle to park. It's a relatively small house that they're proposing, so it's in concert with the fact that it is a slightly at a little less than 1,000 square feet less space than the zoning district would otherwise require. Staff, again, consistent with our recommendations on similarly situated items, is recommending approval for the special exception. We do have some, in your public packet, you will find some communication for support and, I think, ones for opposition or concern.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Summerfield. Do we have anybody here this evening who intends to oppose the application for 1011 Mamie Street? Anybody here in opposition?
Don't.
All right, do we have the owner or somebody with the applicant? Okay,
I'd like to make comments.
sure, you may make comments, and we'll hear from the owner applicant first, and then we'll allow you to make some comments, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Anything you'd like to say, sir?
Yes, my name is Peter Tooten. I'm the owner of the Burke Street properties. I'd like to say that I met with Ms. Higgins last weekend at the property. We kind of walked through her concerns. We're gonna be doing a driveway that's double the width of the one shown on that plan, to add for more off-street parking. And we're well within the setbacks. And I think we'll definitely add to the look of the neighborhood and certainly not reduce that. So yeah, I'm excited about it.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Mr. Cooten while he's up here? All righty, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, anybody else who wishes to speak in support of the application? All right, come on up, sir.
My name is Brendan Thompson. I own the property directly next door to the proposed building site. I just want to come in and say I have no objection whatsoever to build on.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thompson. I appreciate it. Anybody else who wishes to speak in favor? Okay, Ms. Higgins, come on up.
Marsha Higgins, Maryville Advocate Neighborhood Association. And as Peter mentioned, we did meet with them at the property. And so we were very pleased that they agreed to make space for another car to park on the property, which is very important for that narrow street. I spoke with the neighbors on each side. Neither one of them had any concerns about their house being built. There were a couple of concerns about trees on the property. One fell a few months ago, and I think they have agreed to remove that. It fell on the neighbor's fence and on their property. And then there's another tree that's very close to the property line. And while we were there, we didn't notice that, but the neighbor, Regina McKnight, she resides at, I think it's 1009 Mamie. She expressed concerns about it, and they said that they would take a look at it. So we do appreciate that. I do also want to mention that in terms of the lots in our neighborhood, that's 50 by 100. We recognize that they are of insufficient size, but our greatest concern is the setback requirements, that the builders meet the setback requirements front, rear, and sides. We feel that this helps to keep the houses from being so close together, and it also helps with the density in the area. This area, most of the lots are 6,000 square feet or above. However, a house is built there in the past. And we, matter of fact, we know the person, and we know the family, but a house was built there in the past that fit on the lot very well. So we are in support of the applicant building the house at 1011 Mamie. I just had one question. A comment was made that talked about the height of the house, which is 27 feet. And the comment was made, I believe it was by Ford, that they can go higher than that. Even though that's the plan for the house. They could build, in a manner that's not in accordance with the present plan. And so I just had concerns about that. Can they build, that was something that's not in accordance with the present plan?
We'll have some discussion on that, with the city. Yeah, before we make the decision to approve. We'll discuss that.
Those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Higgins. All right, well, just to Ms. Higgins' point, before we neglect to investigate it, what is the height restriction under the zoning ordinance for this lot?
31 feet.
31 feet,
35.
Or 35 feet.
35, okay. And Mr. Cooten, do you intend to build any higher than 27?
Yeah, so just to make a comment on that, we're still not 100% sure as far as the plans that I sent in, if that exact, the exact house will be built. There may be some modifications, but we certainly will be under the 35 feet and within the setbacks. And that's, yeah.
Okay. All right, Ms. Higgins, you heard that the zoning ordinance permits a height that's a little bit higher than what it is in their plans, and that they have the ability to build up to 35 feet if they so choose, even though the plans are currently 27. So when we approve, if we approve, then they will be able to build to that height level. And I don't know, given that, if that gives you any concerns that you want to tell us about or not.
Well, the only concern is the character of the community. There are no two-story houses on that street at all. There are, I don't know the size of the houses, but they're larger houses, all one story. And so we just did not want, the 27 feet is good, no problems with that. But we didn't want a house that was, 2.5 stories or 3 stories there. But the 2-story and the plans that were turned in, are very acceptable.
Okay.
Just to say one more thing, we're not planning on going to 35 feet or even close. I think the other plan we have is like 29.
Okay.
So it's not, even close to the max.
Okay. And I mean, we have the ability to put a condition on the approval. And so if the condition would not harm you, and if we had a condition that you would not build more than 30 feet, would that be something that would be acceptable to you?
Let me see the exact dimension.
The highest rate is 29.8 feet.
So 30 would be okay?
That would work.
Okay. All right. So the other condition that I would suggest that we might consider as a board is the ability for 2 cars, the driveway to be of a sufficient width to accommodate 2 cars.
That's not a problem.
Yeah, we already planned.
Okay, I figured that.
I'm a little worried about conditioning the height. I don't mind conditioning 2 stories. Once we set a precedent, just at a request, to limit the height below legal maximum. In my view, we have set a real precedent for this neighborhood. We're gonna have a hard time changing to other people. And Ms. Higgins' concerns seem to be several. One was keeping it to 2 stories, not 2.5, not 3. One is total height. But I worry about what if we were setting it at 28 instead of 30 right now? We bind ourselves and have a hard time explaining to anybody else who build on that street why we would not limit there's an identical way. So I'm concerned about that.
Mhm.
I tend to agree with you, but I think my thought would be from a character perspective, if you have one building that is significantly taller than the others, I think it's reasonable to try to mitigate that on some level. Because I think if you do wind up with a couple of houses that are 35, then you're changing the character.
Yeah, I mean,
I see it's a concern, but.
They don't seem to have a problem.
Right.
I mean, I don't have a problem in this specific plan, because that is like, it'd either be 27 or 29.8. But I could see what, like you're saying, that what if there's someone who's buying it for their family home and they want 2.5 stories, or they want, 15-foot ceilings or something, and they can't have their house because you guys.
Mr. Ford, did you tell me why you didn't come in with the right plans? Why are we dealing with plans that are not final?
Oh, we submitted this a while ago. Those may well be his final plans. He just, he may go up a little bit taller.
Mr. Cooten, are these your final plans?
I'm still undecided on whether these are the final plans. It's gonna either be that house that we submitted or one other house. The one we submitted, I believe, is right around 27. The other one is 29.8. So yeah, that's,
Is it 29.8 fine for you?
yes, sir. That's what we planned, one or the other. It's not gonna change between those 2 heights for this lot.
Mr. Chairman, if I might just, for the record, to be
Sure.
clear, while those are in here as an exhibit, for discussion so that you can see what they're aiming towards, they are not by any means
not limited to
held to
plans.
those
I get it.
plans, nor do we have a mechanism to hold them to the plans. The action before you is to approve is the lot buildable? And this is an example of how it would be buildable in terms of meeting setback requirements on a lot of insufficient size.
Mhm.
So I just want to be clear that they're not held to these plans. Those are, to some degree, they're kind of courtesy so that you can see kind of the
Sure.
direction that it's
We-
going in.
aren't
We do have the ability to place a condition.
You absolutely
Yeah,
do.
but aren't we into BAR work when we're talking about this specific topic?
That is, matter of what
I
they
don't know if
take up,
BAR
but
even
there's
has
no
jurisdiction.
there's no design review in this area.
Yeah.
But to the chairman's point, you absolutely have the ability to condition your approval.
I don't think it's a
Assuming
big
approval.
deal. I don't think it's not a lot of empty lots there. We're not gonna probably have my anxiety arise, which is somebody else on that block coming with the same request. So I don't mind the suggested conditions. I don't like getting into this kind of detail personally. I don't think it's our business, but I don't mind it this time.
I'll make a motion for approval with conditions that the building be limited to 30 feet and the driveway accommodate 2 vehicles.
Okay, all right, so Mr. Bennett's got a motion, height restriction 30 feet, motion to approve on the condition that there's a height restriction of 30 feet, this driveway width is sufficient for 2 vehicles. Is there a second?
One second.
All right, Mr. Goodwin seconds the motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. The ayes have it unanimously. The motion is approved and the The special exception for 1011 Mamie Street is granted with the two conditions that we've described. Number one, no height over 30 feet. Number two, driveway sufficient for two vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right, the final item on our agenda this evening is A6-176 Smith Street, Cannonboro, Elliottboro, Council District 6. PMS number 460-12-01-103, zone DR2F, requesting variances from section 54-301 to build a rear addition, bedroom, bathroom, dining room, and porch, having a 1 foot north side setback, a 3.5 foot south side setback, 3 feet and 7 feet are required, and a 54% lot occupancy, 40% existing, 50% allowed. The owners are Tom and Ashton Goyette. Sorry. The applicant is Evan Gonzalez, Public Regard. I'll have to have Tom and Ashton correct me on the last name. I'm not. Guy, thank you.
All right, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so I need to point out that because this is a deferred item, when it was originally submitted, there was some work that was on the south edge of the where the house is. The house's current south setback is about the 3.5 foot. So that's why this is noticed with a south side setback of 2.5 or 3.5 feet. However, in the revised drawings that are a part of this application at this point, there is no further setback issue on the south side. And Craig is going to correct me if I've misstated part of that. But so I do want to be clear for the record, because you did get communication from Historic Charleston Foundation. That was their concern. I think it was also a concern of maybe a neighbor who thought that they were extending that 3.5 area. That is not the case with the plans that are before us tonight. That had been, I think, a part of some original drawings. Why this item, I believe, got deferred so that they could continue to work with their neighbors and get us some revisions. So with that, this again is Cannonboro, Elliottboro on Smith Street here, essentially mid-block. This is a relatively large block that has quite a bit of different zoning categories attached to it, as we might expect in this very urban neighborhood. As you can see, the house is an existing house. There is very limited room between a portion of the house and the neighboring property, but you can also see there's no windows or anything that are impacted by that. So let's see here. Okay, so as we can see, so the house would be adding, again, basic living spaces. There's no, and I don't want to just to be taken as disparaging to anybody, but there's no extraneous, new patios with fireplaces or any of that kind of stuff. This is, as you can see on the floor plan, it's providing some dining and living area on the ground floor and a updated master bedroom on the second floor. This does involve moving along essentially that setback, although we'll indent a little bit on that north side. But again, that is, if it wasn't quite as long as it was, I think they actually could come in for a special exception for that extension. But because of the length exceeds what the special exception allowance is, that's why it has to come forward for the variance. And then as you can also see, and I just want to be, again, clear for the record, because there was some confusion with the public comment, and we had to keep the agenda item as it was originally noticed because it was a deferred item, and then we update here on the record. But as you can see, the new addition is actually maintaining above the 7-foot setback. It's the existing portion of the house that is at about the 3.5-foot mark there. And no new work is occurring per these plans. that would be what you'd be approving tonight, related to
So Mr. Summerfield,
this
just,
proposal.
I know, I think I heard you say this, but what your point is the HCF's concern has been alleviated.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Correct. As I understood what HCF's concerns were in the letter that they provided, they were concerned that there was going to be some additional work here.
Yeah.
That is not the case. The request mainly is, there's a lot of occupancy part of it, but you know, the main part of it here is the extending of the house along essentially this north property line. Again, they do set it back some compared to where it is right now, which is almost at a 0 lot line. So in some ways you could argue that they're providing a little breathing space there that's not currently available. But additionally, again, this is interior to their site with they're giving up their backyard, not any public space. They're not asking for extras. They're really asking for additional living quality of life. And so for those reasons, it is a somewhat narrow lot, the way the house is built already at property lines. So staff is recommending approval of this one. Let me escape that. And then, so they do have, so you can see here elevations, how that will end up coming out. They do have letters of support from members of their neighborhood and community. And I don't remember if we got one from the neighborhood association on this one, but I'll let the owners speak to that.
All right, thank you.
We
Mr.
did get one letter of opposition from Dana Campbell at 174 Smith Street. Again, I think that was because there was because in the original plan, we did have some work that would be being done on that south side. It's not a part of the plan.
That's not going forward. So whatever the neighbor had objected to, that part of the
Again, I
project
believe
is
that
not
alleviated as well as the HCF
in
comments.
the application.
That's my belief. They can dispute that.
All right, do you, thank you, Mr. Summerfield. Do we have anybody who was here in opposition to the application for 176 Smith?
Want to have a comment?
Okay, hold on. We're gonna hear from you in just a moment, but we're gonna first hear from the owner's applicants.
Good evening, I'm Evan Gonzalez. I just wanted to note the elevations were our prior submission. We didn't submit revised elevations. So that porch that's being shown in the bathroom block that was encroaching in that 3.5 foot setback. Yeah, this guy right here. That we've been addressing with Dana, the neighbor, directly to the south, and removed that portion. So.
Okay. And we'll need those revised plans when you have them to include in the record.
Any questions for Mr. Gonzalez?
My comment will turn into a question.
Come on up here. Yeah.
And Ms. Campbell, I owe you an apology. You emailed us a few days ago.
Right.
And
I know y'all busy and short.
I am so sorry though. I'm so sorry.
Please state your name and address.
Dana Kim. I live at 174 Smith Street. And yes, I'm glad that they scaled back their addition. I can touch their house if I reach my hand out the window. So it's really tight over there. I was curious to know, I didn't understand this part in the different sketch, a different rendering. It says they're 5 feet from the south side to the back of the house. I didn't understand that.
No, that's the setback requirement from the back.
5 feet
Yeah.
from the end of the lot
Yeah.
to the back of their
No,
house.
that's that dotted line. That's a requirement, so we're plenty further than that.
Okay, then it said in the email that you replied, it said that it was 8.2 feet. But it's, in the rendering, it says 7.
No, so that's two different. So if you look, I've enlarged it here. So 7 feet, they have to mark the setback. So 7 feet here, that is the setback line. The actual new construction will be at 8 feet,
Right.
1 3/4 inches. So they will be more than a foot inside of the setback.
Gotcha.
So that's why that is. Yeah, that can be, for folks who are not used to you looking at site plans, the number of lines that get on these things can be disconcerting. So it is an easy thing to get mixed up. So, but yeah, no, they've eliminated, again, per the site plan, any additions relative to the south side of the proposal.
Okay, and there's 3 feet here or 5?
Again, 3 feet is the required. The setback to the house is pretty extensive. That one's not marked. They're well within the box though for the setback. But again, this is just denoting what the requirements are per the zoning code, which is at 3 feet at the rear of the property.
And one more thing is that on the second floor, it looked like in the other rendering that I can tell if there were doors or windows. And if that's is that a porch?
So on, hold on a second. So on the second floor, there's just windows.
It's a little Juliet balcony to the
It's
back
the
side.
Juliet is on
Yep,
this side.
that's
Yeah, is in the back, towards the backyard.
But this side, are those
No.
windows or
Wait,
doors?
Those are two windows.
I couldn't tell. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
No. I'm good.
Again,
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell.
like I said, I wanted just to make sure to apologize to you publicly that we didn't get back to you.
Apology accepted.
I'm so sorry about that. Oops.
All right, do we have any further questions? Do we have any discussion? Ready to make a motion?
I'm approval.
Second.
All right, we got a motion to approve by Mr. Morrison, second by Mr. Bennett. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Well,
Can it be the motion be as the site plan as presented so that it's clear that there's no south side setback issues?
Yeah, sorry.
okay, sure, let's clarify that. So the motion and the second are reflecting the revised site plans that were submitted and we
And
have
presented this evening.
and presented this evening, and not the ones that were originally submitted with the application. Okay, so all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. The motion passes. And the variances for 176 Smith Street are approved, although we're just with the clarification and caveat that they are based upon the plans that were shown at this evening's meeting and not the plans that were submitted with the original application. Fair enough?
Yep.
All right, thank you.
There you go.